Wall Street broke the housing market, and now they're finally paying the price. For years, home buyers have watched housing prices spiral out of control, while huge institutional landlords like Blackstone and Invitation Homes bought up entire neighborhoods. And to many people, they're the exact reason that they can't find a home. Comment below, is that what you think too? And do you feel the same way? Not only that, but many YouTube pundits have been predicting for years that these institutional buyers were going bankrupt. And when they go bankrupt, they're gonna flood the housing market with inventory, allowing you to buy the deal of your dreams. Well, here we are, spring 2025, and it looks like institutional landlords are finally starting to sell. So has the fire sale actually begun? Or is there much more to the story? Today, I've got a major update for you on institutional home buyers. And if you've been on the sidelines waiting for a housing market crash, then this is a video you must pay attention to. Hey, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Jason Ferrier. I'm the housing nerd, and for the last 7.5 years, almost 8 years now, I've been a realtor and investor in Central Ohio. Today, I'm in Lancaster, Ohio. I actually helped some clients buy a home here in this small Ohio town. And after I met with them, I thought, you know what? This little tiny town is really nice. I wanted to show it to you guys. And at the same time, I thought, hey, let me shoot a video about these institutional investors. To help us understand what's happening with institutional investors, we're going to lean on ResiClub Analytics. The name of this article from ResiClub is Institutional Landlords Are Selling More Homes Than They Are Buying. So soon after the mortgage rates spiked and the pandemic housing boom fizzled out in 2022, the amount of institutional capital pouring into the scatter site acquisitions of single family rentals slowed way down. No kidding, right? Like, during the pandemic, when money was cheap and the housing market was exploding, not only were homeowners buying hand over fist, not only were small investors like me buying hand over fist, but also institutional landlords were buying hand over fist. So comment below, did you see a lot of institutional buying in your neighborhood? Do you have a lot of institutional homeowners in your neighborhood? Generally speaking, a company that owns more than 1,000 single family homes is considered a large institutional landlord. After the housing boom, and as money got more expensive, and interest rates went up and prices kept going, institutional landlords decided, you know what? It's time to back off on buying these houses. Just like you probably would think, and a lot of homeowners probably did too. I know I saw it being a realtor. People were like, man, interest rates are now 7%. Prices have gone parabolic. I'm going to tap out and sit out on this thing and wait. And so in this ResiClub article, they're looking at the top 8 institutional landlords, and they say that 7 out of the top 8 are actually net sellers right now. And so let that sink in. They're actually selling more homes than they're buying. And you probably think, hey, that's good news. Take a look at the graph on your screen right now. This shows you the institutional SFR portfolio moves this quarter. And so it represents how many homes are they buying and how many homes are they selling in Q2 of 2025. So you can see on the chart there on the screen how many homes these institutional landlords are actually selling versus buying right now. And it's clear many of them are net sellers. Like, for instance, I want you to pay attention to is Home Partners of America. Now, a lot of people blame Blackstone, right, for the big problems in the housing market. Well, Blackstone owns Home Partners of America. And in Q2, they actually sold 343 homes and they only bought 4. So if you're wondering if they are going to be net sellers of real estate instead of buyers, there you go. They're currently net sellers. Hey, a quick break from today's video because I want to make you a deal. I'll bring the value. I'll bring the data. All you got to do is hit the like button, subscribe to the Housing Nerd, and leave a comment to let me know what you think about the housing market. All right, back to the video. So the article continues with, while most institutional landlords are net sellers this quarter, it isn't a mass sell-off. Now, this next part, folks, is maybe one of the most important parts of the article because it really gives you an idea of the scope of how many homes these institutional landlords actually own. It'll also tell you how much trouble they're in. Like, have they liquidated their entire stock of homes in the last year? Are they, in fact, going to crash the housing market? Are they going bankrupt? Well, unfortunately, listen to this. If Invitation Homes maintained that pace of net selling, it would take nearly 100 107 years. You heard me right. 107 years to sell off its entire 86,000 home portfolio. 86,000. So they did sell 270 homes in Q2 of 2025. Unfortunately, they still have 86,000 single family homes. 86,000. So let's say, for instance, you've got 86,000 of anything. $86,000, 86,000 cars, 86,000 bricks of Legos. And I tell you, hey, I'm gonna take away 270. Are you gonna cry? Probably not. So when I do some quick math, it's around 1,500 or so homes that these institutional landlords actually sold in Q2 of 2025. So one of the ones that ResiClub hits on is Home Partners of America, which currently has 2.5% of a single family rental portfolio up for sale, according to analysis of Parcl Lab data. And look at this chart on your screen. Look at how many homes these institutional landlords actually own. I mean, Invitation Homes owns 86,000. Progress Residential has 84,000. And so when you look at the number of homes they're actually sold, it's a drop in the bucket compared to how many homes they actually own. Like, they basically took the bottom feeders off their portfolio and said, you know what, these things are not performing. We're gonna get rid of them. And they kept the ones that are performing. I mean, in the last couple years, I've peeled off some rentals that I own because they weren't performing well, just like any investor would. So the notion that like they're done for, they're doomed, all this flooded inventory is gonna crash the housing market again, I just don't want you to be fooled or hoodwinked or hornswoggled in this, because you can't look at the market with rose-colored glasses on. You have to look at it practically. And, you know, I'm not a cheerleader of real estate. I'm not a crash bro either. I just try to look at it from a logical end and go, all right, are these folks really suffering, or are they just, you know, in non-buying mode and probably shoring up their current investments? In fact, that's what they're doing. Listen to this. The reason institutional scatter site home buying remains low is that when factoring in post-pandemic housing boom prices, slowed rent growth, home price growth, higher maintenance, higher carrying costs, fewer available homes offer the returns that big investors are seeking relative to the gains that can be found elsewhere. This trend will likely continue unless real home prices fall, rent growth accelerates, or interest rates decrease. Pay special attention to that if you're on the sidelines hoping for some type of housing market crash. And there's a lot of people who comment on my channel that say, hey, I'm waiting on the sidelines until home prices drop 50%, then I'm gonna go out and get a deal. Now, it's not a horrible strategy, except for the fact that it's clear that a lot of these institutional buyers are waiting on the sidelines just like you. They're waiting for the prices or interest rates to come down. And if they come down together, these folks have tons of cash that they're gonna deploy, tons of cash. Obviously more than you do, more than I do. Now they quote the CEO from Amherst, which owns 43,000 single family rentals, and he explained it like this. The pace of institutional investment is way down for sure among operators. You take a look at us, or look at Invitation Homes, American Homes for Rent, Tricon, or Progress. We're all deploying single family asset capital way slower. Part of that is just the fact that investment requirements have gone up and home prices have gone up. Rents create the equilibrium there, and rents have clearly not kept up with the increased cost of housing from purchasing. It might take a while before those two things get back into alignment. You are paying more for a home and more for all the things that go in the home. So the bulk of what we do in the single family homes business is pretty dramatic renovations. We're changing air conditioning, foundation repairs, and flooring, complete new kitchens and bathrooms, and all that fun stuff. Guess what? As a small investor, small landlord, I can tell you I do the same thing. That's exactly what I'm doing. Now, I have acquired some properties over the last couple of years when everybody hasn't, because they thought things were too expensive. But if you look hard enough and you do the work, you can actually find deals still. So I have bought a couple deals, but most of the capital I have now, most of the things that I'm focusing on are renovations. Like they said, foundations, bathrooms, flooring, kitchens, roofs, windows, all that stuff. I own a lot of old buildings. There's a lot of old buildings here in Lancaster. A lot of big, beautiful places. Like, look at this place. Pretty awesome, right? Very festive for this time of year. We got Memorial Day coming up. By the way, if you know somebody in the military, or you are in the military or retired military, thank you for your service as we celebrate Memorial Day weekend. So look at this next chart. This tells you the percentage of single family homes that large institutional investors are currently buying. So when you scoop up all the single family houses, what percentage of the housing market are they buying? Now, a lot of people think this is like 40%, 50%. I've had people comment on my channel and say institutional investors own like 70% of the housing market. Well, look at the chart. In 2018, quarter three, they bought 0.7% of all homes in the single family house space that quarter. Then it spiked all the way up to 2.2% of all single family homes sold that quarter. Not of all homes on the market, homes that were sold that quarter only. So at the height, it was only 2.2%. Now it's back down to 0.3%. Comment and tell me what you think. Were you surprised by that? Or maybe you think the books are cooked and this info is not right. They go on to say, while many institutional landlords have pulled back significantly on scatter site home buying, some, including American Homes for Rent, are still pushing ahead on build to rent, where they can squeeze out slightly more favorable returns, in part because they gain the advantage of maintaining and operating a community rather than servicing homes spread across various locations. So basically, economies of scale, right? Like if I own 4 rental properties on the same block, I can send my maintenance guy over there and take care of those 4 rental properties pretty easily. Versus if there's a rental property in one city, another rental in another, and another, and another, and another, much more difficult, less scalable, less profitable. So these build for rent things are going to continue, especially as, fewer and fewer people may be able to qualify for a house. Like think about the student loan debt crisis we're facing. There's a lot of first-time home buyers that aren't going to be able to buy a home. They're going to be forced to rent. A lot of them, may want to rent a decent place, so they're going to rent a newer house. And a lot of that is build to rent. That's what you're going to see. You're going to see more and more of that, folks, in my opinion. So what does all this data mean? I mean, if should you even care about institutional home buyers? Quite frankly, I'm not sure that you should spend much time thinking about them. I mean, there's always going to be corporations involved in the housing market, especially since the housing market was securitized, after the GFC. And we can wish, hope, want, and pray for some type of correction, some type of guardian angel to come in, swoop down, and magically change the fraud and the greed and the corruption so that real estate nirvana will rain down upon us and everything will be hunky-dory. However, that's not reality. And unless you've been living under a rock for the past 5 years, you know dang well that's not the reality. And so you have to figure out how to beat these guys anyway. And don't let them stop you from doing what you want to do. Now, if you're somebody who just is on the sidelines because that's where you want to be, you don't want to buy a house, you don't want to invest in real estate, like that's not a bad thing. Renting is not a bad thing. Don't let anybody ever shame you into thinking that you have to own a house in order to be happy. That's completely hogwash. I can tell you firsthand, when I was a renter, it was much easier in a lot of ways. Now, I love my house, but a lot of days I'm like, man, it'd be nice to just rent something today, right? However, if you want to, and you're on the sidelines because you think, oh, one of these days the crash is coming, the correction's coming, that's up to you as well. But I would encourage you to try to go out and find a deal today. One reason is you can probably find a deal and beat these guys now versus waiting for when the prices or rates come down and now they're competing with you. That's not a good thing. You don't want that. You just heard from one of the larger institutional buyers that they're on the sidelines right now. The other thing is a lot of these institutional buyers do not want houses that need work. They want move-in ready properties. They also don't want older homes. They want newer homes, generally speaking. And so one of the things you can do is go out and network with local real estate investment groups. You can also do something I call driving for dollars, which is where you drive the streets and look for homes that are distressed, homes that need work, homes that look like maybe they've been forgotten about. Be willing to, come off the beaten path a little bit, explore other neighborhoods you may not be thinking about and write down those addresses and then look up the owners' names, their mailing addresses, and then send them letters asking them if they're interested in selling their home. You'd be surprised. Some people are. And you can land a deal that way. You also need to be realistic, right? Like in this particular neighborhood I'm in now, like every house is beautiful pretty much. So the chances of finding a rundown house here, pretty slim. Now, you could look at homes in this neighborhood that maybe have either been on the market a while or haven't been sold in a while and send them letters anyway. You never know what you're gonna find, but I wouldn't expect some type of massive discount, certainly because the houses are in great shape. Like this one here. This one needs a little bit of work maybe. Check this out. Now, by no means is that place run down, but it's in a, it's definitely not as grand as some of these other buildings. So maybe there's a deal there, maybe not. Don't know till you try. But the point is that there are opportunities almost in every town like that. You just got to do the work and think outside the box. I know that's a cheesy saying, but it applies. You got to do things others are unwilling to do. How many people do you know that would drive around the streets looking for houses that look like they need work, writing down the address, then researching the owner, sending them a letter in the mail and do it, 12 times? Not many people. But if you're willing to do that, you can get the reward that few others will get because they're not willing to do the work. Now, the other thing you can do if you're working with a realtor is have them pull the expired listings. Have them pull all the listings that never actually closed for whatever reason. Maybe they were canceled, maybe the price was too high or whatever. And I would even go back 3-5 years if you need to. Have your realtor call those listings and find out if they're still interested in selling. Don't just look at the properties that are on the market. Another idea is going after for sale by owner. A lot of realtors won't call on for sale by owner listings because they think they're not going to get paid on it. Well, you can still call them even if your realtor is not willing to call on the listing. I actually had a client one time who I was working with for like a year. I showed them maybe 24 houses. They ended up buying a for sale by owner without me involved. I didn't get paid for it, and they actually got the house they wanted. Now, it was kind of like, geez, they pulled the rug out from underneath me, but guess what? That's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. I mean, it was kind of my fault for not putting them in an agreement, I guess, and they ended up getting the house they wanted, which is really the goal at the end of the day, right? So it was what it was, no big deal, but that's an example of what you can do too. And they didn't have to pay a realtor fee, and the seller didn't have to pay one either, so that's a savings, and they got the house they wanted at the price they wanted. One of the things they do here in Ohio, they have these like little events in different, holidays. So Memorial Day is this weekend. So here in downtown Lancaster, they've got like the streets blocked off, and they're gonna do like a whole little, shindig thing. But the town is really pretty. Like if I pan around here, the town is old. I'm guessing it was founded probably in the early 1800s, as most little Ohio towns were founded. And yeah, it's got a little town feel. Pretty nice place. But the thing I would not do is wait on someone else to save you. No one's coming to save you in the housing market. So if your strategy is simply to wait on the sidelines, even if you're building your income, your credit, and your assets, that may not be a strategy that works out at the end of the day. Because there could be somebody that somebody you don't know, somebody who has a lot more money than you, that's gonna beat you to the house you want. Now, not saying that's gonna happen. I mean, shoot, you could have the flood of homes actually hit the market. I'm not a wizard. I don't know if the housing market's gonna crash. It definitely could. Anything's possible. But if you're just hoping that the market crashes, that's not a very good strategy. I'm sure you know that, but I just encourage you to get out there now if you want to find a home and make offers at a price that makes sense for you. Now, it may take you 1.5 years to find them, but you may be able to find a discount on a house a lot earlier than waiting on a housing market crash. And what if the housing market does not crash? What happens if it just corrects? Well, then you found a deal while asset prices continue to go up. That's a win for you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Now, if you want to stay on top of the latest housing market data, I would check out one of my weekly Redfin updates. We do these live. It's a whole community thing where we get on, talk about the housing market, and I dissect various housing markets across the country. Here's my latest one right here. It's up here. Over here? Up here. Here it is. It's up here somewhere. Click on it. That's all you gotta do.